Hello everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. My name is Ricky Doshi and I'm an architect and interior designer based out in Mumbai, India. In the last video, we discussed about how to design a design brief and its importance before beginning the design process. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, I'll leave the link of it in the description box below. So today's topic of discussion is going to be pre-existing site conditions, which majorly consists of two factors. The first one, health of the existing site, and the second one, how to take measurements. We'll be discussing in detail about both these topics. The first thing that we must do when we visit a new site is to check for its health. You must be wondering, what does he mean by health of the site? It means that we must check for leakages or whether there are any cracks on the structural members such as columns, beams or slabs, or there are any cracks on the walls or the plaster on the walls. Also check the condition of the flooring, the electrical wiring, the plumbing points and paints, whether any of the paints has chipped off the wall or off the ceiling. This is a very important step to determine what kind of site preparation work needs to be done before we can actually start the finishing work on the site. It definitely helps to save on a decent amount pertaining to the site preparation work if the above scope of work is in a good condition. This is restricted only if we keep the same layout, not many major changes into the layout, because if you are changing the entire layout, the things to consider are the leakages, whether there are any cracks on columns, beams or slabs, which are the main structural members. That's about it, because everything else is going to be demolished. Site preparation work is necessary as it acts as the foundation for the finishing. It is preferred for designers to take a lot of photos and even videos of the existing site conditions, whatever problems there might be on the site. And I would recommend to write a report and submit it to the client, because the client is kept in the loop about these things. These are the things that need to be changed. These are the things that are, absolutely fine. They don't have to be touched. So they get a better idea of what the budget is before the actual work starts. Taking site measurements is an absolutely essential process when it comes to designing. I mean, how can you design something without having any pre-existing measurements? I'll go through this process step by step, so that even someone from a non-design background can easily take measurements without any help. For starters, we shall need the following equipment to start taking measurements. Number one is a measuring tape. Looks something like this. So you can either buy like a 3 meter or a 5 meter measuring tape. I personally prefer a 5 meter because it goes up to almost 16 feet in height. You can also buy a digital measuring tape, which looks something like this, although it carries a higher price tag. You can always find this thing either on Amazon or Flipkart or any of the hardware stores. This measuring tape will cost you somewhere under $100, whereas a digital one, I bought this around 9 years back when the digital measuring tapes were not that popular in India. I actually got this from the US and it cost me like 11,000 bucks. But don't worry, it's not that expensive anymore. This starts from somewhere around 1,500, 2,000 bucks. It's some other brand. I think the Bosch ones start from 3,500 bucks or so. It covers up to 40 meters in interiors, so it's totally your call. But this tape will suffice if you're a beginner at taking measurements. Number two, a piece of paper. I prefer a graph paper, a lined paper, something like this. You can also use a normal paper. It's purely a personal preference, but using a graph paper helps you to draw straight lines while sketching, which is of a big help. But again, as I said, it's your call. If you love plain paper, if you're confident about your sketching, go ahead, use a plain paper. Number three, general stationery. You'll require some pencils. I use a 0.7 mm Staedtler clutch. I find it easier to sketch from this. And I like using some colored pens. My favorite are the Pilot sign pens. The blue color is missing over here, but I like to keep all 4 of them together. So, and of course, a set of eraser. Just if you're sketching from pencil, you need to erase certain measurements or something if you've taken the wrong measurement. But again, like general stationery, You can even keep a scale with you in case if the lines are not coming way too crooked. So it's better to keep a small scale with you as well. Number 4, always keep a writing pad with you. I know it sounds funny, but it is very, very essential. You never know what kind of situation is there on the site, whether you get a nice wall to just put your paper and draft or sketch, or you might not find anything. So a writing pad will always ensure that you have some sort of a backing for whichever paper that you're using. Also, writing pads are very helpful while when you're using a digital measuring tape. I'll use a book over here. So for example, if I want to take a measurement up to here, I can just pinpoint my laser to this particular part and I get the measurements. So it's easier to use this scale, this tape with a writing pad as well. So go ahead and get one, because I know that probably you must have last used a writing pad when you were in school. You definitely need to go to a stationery store and buy one. The next step is to determine the north direction on the site. Now this is a very, very essential process for various reasons. The basic explanation is the orientation of sun, wind, rain and other natural forces, which are based on directions. It helps us to give a better orientation of furniture and make the optimum use of these natural forces in our design process. Other than this, there are many people who prefer to make their houses using the principles of Vastu and Feng Shui. Thus, directions play a very important role in the designing of various elements using these design principles. Now begins the fun part. I'll show you how to take measurements actually on the site. This is a very easy process and anybody can do it. As you can see, this is a sample room that I'm going to show how to take measurements of all the elements which are present inside the room. So let's get cracking. How I like to start is sketch down the tentative plan of the room without taking the measurements, either taking the door or the corner of the wall as the benchmark. And once I have sketched the entire plan, it becomes easier to just take the measurements and jot it down on a piece of paper. I'm going to start taking the measurements from this corner of the wall and using a measure tape for starters, and then I'll show you how to take the same using a digital measuring tape. So now that I've got all the measurements using the manual measuring tape, I'm going to cross-check it using the digital measuring tape. So I was able to compare both the measurements, from the manual tape and the digital tape, and luckily there is no difference between them. So whatever I've sketched out over here is absolutely fine. One thing that I would like to bring to everyone's notice, even though if you're a starter, a manual measuring tape would make more sense since it's quite cheaper than the digital tape, but the amount of time that you save using this tape is phenomenal. Like, I think 1/10 of the time, you can take the measurements of the entire room. Of course, you need to understand how the scale works in the first place, but well, something to think about, when you are purchasing a digital measuring tape. So as you can see, this is the main entry of the room that we just took the measurements of. I have taken the measurements in inches. The interiors in India, usually, people prefer to take it in feet and inches scale, because not many of the contractors are still comfortable with the metric system. But when it comes to architecture, we usually use the metric system. So it's a little complicated. Anyways, so the measurements, this is 28 inches. Then you have a wardrobe, which is in offsetted inside. We have 1.5 wardrobe. This is the dresser area. So these are the measurements, and then we have a small duct over here. We have a nice seating as we saw in the images, and these are the measurements. These are the pillars over here. This is a window of the room on this side. Then when you come on the other side, have all these offsets. All the measurements of this offset were also taken, and This is the door leading to the bathroom. There is an attached bathroom in this room, and we once again come to this wall, and that's how all the measurements are taken. So as you can see, the advantage of using a graph paper over here is that most of my lines are straight. So think about it, kind of paper you're using to take the measurements. Yes, very important thing. I've also taken the north over here, which direction the north is. So when I'm redesigning, whatever I want to design in this particular area, I can always consider the directions, as I had mentioned earlier in the video. Now that we have sketched out the measurement plan, it's time to draft it. There are multiple ways that we can do it. First one is manual drafting. And the second one is the use of CAD-based softwares. CAD stands for computer-aided design, which are available in plenty and are relatively easy to use. I personally use a CAD-based software for the pure reason that being an architect, it is kind of a prerequisite to know these softwares. But if you're from a non-design background and do not know how to use these softwares, you need not worry at all. I'll share some tips with you on what you can do. Firstly, you can approach a CAD operator or a draftsman, as we call over here, to get your sketch plan properly drafted in any of the CAD-based softwares. Secondly, if you're a design enthusiastic just like me and you think that you can conquer any CAD-based software, go ahead, try it out. It may be a little complicated at first, but I'm sure you can go ahead and do it. Thirdly, you can hire a professional architect who does these kinds of works. Just ask them to take the actual measurements of the site. They'll properly draft it on CAD for some minimal cost, and also give you a notary, saying that the measurements are actually accurate enough so that you can use them in the future when you're renovating your house, or you can use it even for any legal purposes, which is regarding any property. So friends, I hope this video helped you in understanding the topic of our discussion. And in case if you have any queries, please feel free to drop any of the comments in the comment box, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you liked the video, then please go ahead and click the like button, and please share the video amongst your family and friends. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do it right away and click on the bell icon so that whenever I post new videos in this series, you'll get a notification regarding that. Until the next video, stay healthy and stay safe. I'll be seeing you soon.